Welcome, crafty friends! Want a little extra sweetness to your Christmas decor? Today we're making candy canes that are too cute to eat. Whether you're a crafting pro or just looking for a fun way to spread some holiday cheer, this easy tutorial will have you hooked. Pun totally intended. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Let's get started and make your season a little bit sweeter. This craft starts out with some foam rollers from the Dollar Tree. And I decided to use these green foam rollers because they were just a little bit skinnier than the pink ones, but the pink ones would work great as well. And you're just going to shape them into a candy cane. For this first candy cane, I am going to use this rope from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to unwrap it. And we're just going to use one of those strands on that rope. Now let's go ahead and take one of those strands and a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to wrap that around our candy cane. I'm going to continue doing that, and every inch or so I'll add a little bit more hot glue and continue to wrap. This next step is completely optional, but I like to take a lighter and I just burn any of that extra frizz off of our rope. Now let's give this candy cane some stripes. I'm going to use some of these berry garlands, and I'm starting out with some red berry garland. And I did get this at the Dollar Tree, but sometimes if you can't find it there, I have seen it at Hobby Lobby. I found it on Amazon as well. So it kind of is hit or miss of whether or not you'll be able to find that. And now I just took a little bit of hot glue at the bottom of that candy cane, and I'm just going to wrap some of those berries all the way around my candy cane. Now let's go ahead and repeat that step with some white berry garland. And now our adorable candy cane is complete. I just love how this turns out. It's such a rustic piece you can hang on a tree or put on a tiered tray. Now for our next candy cane, we're going to start out with that same foam roller. And this time I'm going to be using some of that thick, chunky yarn for my white. And then I'm going to use a thinner yarn for my red. We'll start out with that white chunky yarn, and using some hot glue at the bottom there, we're just going to attach that yarn and then wrap that all the way up our candy cane. And now that we have our candy cane all wrapped up, I am wanting to cover those little plastic caps on the roller, so I'm just going to cut 2 little pieces of yarn and take some hot glue and cover those up. Now let's grab our red yarn, and I believe I got this yarn at Ben Franklin, and I'm just going to cut a piece about a yard in length. And I'm going to take that piece, and then one of the ends I'm going to just kind of stuff and hide in that white yarn, and I'm going to hot glue that into place. Now all we have to do is wrap that red yarn all the way around our candy cane. And periodically I will add a little bit of hot glue once I'm satisfied with my placement of the yarn. And now our fluffy candy cane is ready to hang. This is perfect for a tree, but could also be used on a tiered tray. Now for our third candy cane, I am going to be using this checkered ribbon that I found at Hobby Lobby, and I got this on the 50% off. Now I'm going to just take this ribbon and I'm going to unwrap it a little bit, and I think I unwrapped about 2.5 yards. I probably should have measured it, but I found that it was easier to wrap this around the candy cane when it wasn't on the spool of ribbon. I'm just taking some hot glue, and I actually hot glued this right to the bottom of the roller there so that I could cover those little white caps, and I just started wrapping that ribbon all the way around our candy cane. Now we could just leave our little candy cane like this, But I wanted to add a little bow, so I just used a little bit of hot glue and added a twine finger bow to the top. And now this candy cane is complete, and I just love the rustic feel to this candy cane. It is so pretty. Now I would love to hear from you guys. Which one of these candy canes do you like best? Do you like number 1, number 2, or number 3? Please drop a note in the comments below. So this is a fun and simple craft that you can do with one of the large candy cane forms from the Dollar Tree and a small package of lights, 2 rolls of decorative mesh, and some zip ties. So I'm going to start out by laying out my candy cane form, and then I'm going to flip it over to the back side. And once I have that flipped over, I'm going to take that strand of lights, and these lights I did get at Walmart. This is just 20 lights in the strand. And I'm just going to start zip tying the lights from the bottom up and around the candy cane. And I wanted the plug to be at the bottom of my candy cane so it'll be easier to plug in. And one thing I found when making these is that it was nice to zip tie it from the bottom and then zip tie the top and then add the zip ties in between just to kind of space things out a little bit better with the lights. And now that we got our lights all in place, we just go ahead and clip any of those extra little pieces off of the zip ties. Now grab your white decorative mesh, and we're going to go ahead and start at the bottom of the candy cane and just start wrapping that around the whole entire candy cane. And we're going to use the whole entire roll of decorative mesh just so it's nice and thick underneath. When you get to the end of the hook of the candy cane, I just go ahead and I wrap that white mesh up and around and just kind of make sure everything's tucked all nice and tight inside of that candy cane. And then I'm just going to take that roll and just continue wrapping it until I get to the end of the roll. And once I get to the end of the roll, I am going to zip tie that to the back of the candy cane. And once that is secure, I just go ahead and trim that little piece of the zip tie off and any excess decorative mesh. Now here's what your candy cane should look like. Next, I'm going to grab my red decorative mesh and I'm going to take it, and while it's still on the roll, I'm folding it in half so it'll be a thinner stripe being able to go up and around the candy cane. And then starting at the bottom of the candy cane, I'm going to wrap it around the bottom 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's nice and tight around that bottom piece of the candy cane. And then at an angle, I'm going to take that stripe and just wrap it up and around the candy cane. Now, one of these rolls of decorative mesh will make 2 candy canes, so you might want to make a pair of them to put out in your yard. And as you can see while I'm wrapping this candy cane, it's pretty easy to just kind of fold that decorative mesh in half and just continue wrapping. And the more you wrap, the more it just kind of stays into place. When you get to the end of the hook, I flip the candy cane over and I trim the excess mesh and pinch it together. Next, I'll grab a zip tie and just zip tie this to the back side. And once you're satisfied, you can flip this candy cane over and see what you've created. I just love how this turns out. I'm going to show you lit up here what it looks like, and you can tell that when I dim the lights, it really shows bright through here. Now, I decided to keep my candy canes plain like this, but you could add a bow to it. Now, here is what it looks like outside. I just love how this spruces up the outdoor area for decorating, and it's a fun craft and easy one to do. Now let's make a trio of ornaments. I found these adorable ornaments at the Dollar Tree, and 3 of them didn't match my decor, so we are going to remake them. First thing I'm going to do is just remove all the bows and the hangers that came with these ornaments, and we'll save those for another craft. Next, to remove everything off of these ornaments, I just spritz them with a little bit of water, add a paper towel over the top so everything soaks in, and then I'm going to just go ahead and take a scraping tool here and just scrape all of the excess off. I did take my heat tool and made sure that the ornament was nice and dry before I sanded anything extra off of the front. And once I'm satisfied with my removal of everything on the front of these, I'm going to go ahead and get started making them over. Now for the first two ornaments, they're going to be very similar. I'm using a napkin that I found at HomeGoods, which is a great place to find adorable napkins at. And I like this one because of the foil inlay on one of the quadrants here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the back two layers of this napkin. And we're going to use that foil piece for our ornament. Now going back to our ornament, I'm going to tape that down to a paintable surface. And using my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, we're going to do a nice coat of paint over the top of the front of the ornament. And once that paint has completely dried, I am going to use my hard coat Mod Podge here, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint a nice coat of the Mod Podge over the top of the ornament. And once that is completely dry, I'm going to go back to that napkin we prepped earlier and lay that over the top of our ornament. And once I'm satisfied with the position of the napkin, I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper and layer that over the top of the napkin. And then we'll grab our iron and iron that napkin right on top of the ornament. And before we do anything else, I am going to grab my Mod Podge and just do a quick coat over the top of the ornament. And this will allow the napkin to seal in. And once that is completely dry, I am going to grab my zip sander and I'm going to sand around the outside edge of the ornament in a downward motion. Next, I'm going to take my ornament and flipping it over and putting it on a paintable surface. I am going to take my flamenco red from Apple Barrel and I'm going to paint the back side of this ornament. Then I decided to paint the perimeter of the ornament as well with the same red paint. Now, this worked out pretty well having this taped down to a piece of cardboard, but it did get a little bit of that red on the front side of our ornament, which at first I thought was not going to be good, but it turned out to look amazing. Now, once everything is dry, here is what the front side of our ornament looks like. I am going to just take my little weeding tool from Cricut, and I'm just going to poke the hole back through so I can put this ribbon through to make a hanger. And for our final touch, I am going to add a little bow to the top of the ornament. And I started out with a sheer bow, and then I added a gold bow over the top of it. And that's all there is to it. This first little ornament is complete. I just love how it turns out. Now for our second ornament, when I did the red around the perimeter, it did not look as pretty as it did on that first one. So what I did was I took a little baby wipe and I'm just going to wipe the excess paint off of it. And the paint was still wet, so it came off very easily. And now once everything was dry, I went ahead and I returned the ornament to our piece of cardboard. And I grabbed my Delta Creative gold metallic paint. And I'm going to take a dry brush here and I'm just going to dry brush around the outside of the ornament. Then I grabbed my Cricut tool and I went ahead and I just poked the hole back in so I could string my ribbon through to make a hanger. And once we have a hanger on this adorable ornament, I am going to add a double gold bow and this ornament will be complete. So it looks a lot like that first one, but just with a little bit more gold in it. And it still has that red on the back to make sure that the ornament is finished on both sides. Now moving on to ornament number 3. So for this ornament, I wanted to bring the candy cane into it. So I'm using this DIY set from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pull out that candy cane from it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some clippers and I'm going to clip the little tabs off the top of the candy canes. And using my zip sander, I'll just sand over the top just to make sure everything is nice and rounded. Next, I'm going to tape this down to a paintable surface, and using my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, I'm going to give a nice coat of paint over the top of these candy canes. I only did one coat of paint on these candy canes because I still wanted to see the lines on the candy canes through the paint. And using my Mod Podge, I'm going to take a thin brush here and I'm just going to go ahead and paint a little bit of Mod Podge on every other stripe on the candy cane. And while that Mod Podge is still wet, I am going to grab out some red sparkle glitter. And I'm just going to put a piece of paper underneath my candy cane here, so that way any of the excess glitter will fall onto that. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top of the candy cane, and then you'll see the beautiful stripes starting to show through. And then we just keep repeating the same step on the next candy cane until all of the red has been added to our candy cane. Once you ensure that everything is really nice and dry, we're going to repeat the same steps, but this time we're going to be doing white glitter instead of the red. So we'll put the Mod Podge in between the different stripes and then add our white glitter. And once you're satisfied with the white glitter, we'll go ahead and clean up our mess and then ensure that everything is nice and dry before we seal everything in. And once we know that everything is dry, I am going to take that same Mod Podge and I'm going to do a coat over the top, and I'm going to let this sit for about a half an hour. So I like to add different textures and things into my crafts. So I found this adorable gold placemat at the Dollar Tree, and I'm taking a small piece from it and I'm going to trace on the back side of it the ornament. Next, I just grab a pair of scissors and I just trim the ornament out. And this is really easy to cut, so don't worry about it. It cuts very nicely with scissors. Now, going back to our candy cane, I am going to add a few little embellishments to the candy cane. We are going to take a few pieces of greenery and I'm just going to hot glue them to the center where that bow used to be. And then over the top of that greenery, I'm going to add a little black bow. And now we're just going to put everything together. And some of this stuff I didn't get on camera and I don't know how that happened. But I did paint the back side of this ornament red and I glued the placemat onto the front of the ornament. And for this one, I wanted to use a black ribbon, so to feed that through to make a hanger out of it, I had to use my Cricut tool there to get it to go through. Now, once we have our hanger made, we can go ahead and add that candy cane to the center. And to glue that candy cane on, I did use my Type Bond Quick and Thick with a little bit of hot glue. And now this adorable candy cane ornament is complete. And I think this goes with our other two ornaments amazing. I just love how all three of these ornaments turned out. And this is such a fun trio set with a little bit of a difference between the three. And there you have it, 7 Candycane Crafts. I hope you enjoyed these sweet projects as much as I did. And if you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, be sure to check out our next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.